This video will show us how to remove the valve cover and reseal its gasket for the Nissan Frontier with a 3300 V6 60-degree engine. Once the upper plenum intake manifold is removed, we will have access to all the bolts for the valve cover. We have a total of 9 Phillips bolts to remove. One is under the distributor. We'll first start by removing the C-clamp and its breather hose. When the valve cover screws are finally removed, try and get your hands onto them, because it will tend to fall with the washer, and the washer with the rubber garment inside is very important. If the rubber garment is not inside of the washer, then it will not be able to clamp the valve cover effectively. This is the area where we are getting the oil leak from, and it's falling on the exhaust manifold, causing a smoky condition. We are using a Phillips screwdriver number P3 for these valve cover screw. It's the perfect fitted screwdriver for these screws. Anything bigger or smaller will have a tendency to strip the head of the screw. Remember, alignment with the screw is very important, so take time in placing the tool properly onto the screw before turning and twisting. The engine compartment on this vehicle is very tight, and a mistake will cost you if it should happen. This line is still connected to the solenoid, so we'll just lay it back and leave it in the engine compartment. Well, it's going to require a little fighting with, but it's now removed. When we look at all the rocker arm on the valve cover and in the valley, you can see some development of carbon under the valve cover. This can be cleaned up with some diesel. Just lightly brush this stuff away with a paintbrush and some diesel, and it will wash down in the pan. Don't forget to remove the oil pan bolt first, so this way all this sludge will continuously flow into the oil pan and out of it. You don't want anything to settle. That will happen if you have the drain plug in the oil pan. Also clean up the mating surface of the valve cover gasket on the outer edge. Make sure it's oil free. Some brake cleaner is ideal for these procedure. This is what inside the valve cover looks like, and we really don't have too much of a buildup of carbon or oil sludge, so this is a good thing. But when we look at the gasket closely, we will see that it's a rubber gasket, and our leak is coming from this lower portion. Right here we can see a little split in the gasket itself. This could be where the leak is coming from. We're going to apply some silicone to this area and all around the mating surface. After we wash this part with some diesel, then we will wash it with soap and water to remove all its oil. By removing all the oil from the gasket surface, it's optimum for sealing and lasting a long time. I don't recommend reusing of this gasket since it has a split in it, because in the future this split will complete itself and then the gasket will pull away, causing a bigger leak. Now we are finished with cleaning the inside of the valve cover, and in this area you must check for buildup of sludge, because this is a baffle in the valve cover that will retain any sludge that should accumulate. But since we didn't have a large amount of sludge, we're not really going to check that compartment. You will simply do so by putting your finger back there and feel for a buildup. Once the valve cover and its gasket mating surface is dry, we will apply a thin coat of black silicone to its surface. We will apply a little extra silicone in the area of the damage. It is important to apply the silicone to the gasket surface immediately before the installation. This is how you should prepare the cylinder head for cleaning under the valve cover. Pay close attention to this area here, for it is a low spot that oil tends to puddle up. Now we have all the leading edge of the cylinder head valve cover surface clean. We're going to install the valve cover with sealant. So I like to apply my silicone by hand. Some people like to use the tube, you know, because they don't like to get this stuff on their hand. They will go like this and apply it. But I like to apply by hand because you're really pressing it into the surface. It's kind of like massaging it in. Now you don't need that much in the upper area. That will be right here. You don't need that much here because you really don't get any oil in the upper portion of the valve cover. The area you really want to place it is along the sides and the bottom, and especially where you have the breakage. Before you install the valve cover, you should always test maneuver it first. This way the silicone surface don't touch other surface during installation. The installation is much easier once this EGR valve is out of the way. But we're not going to mess with the EGR valve because we don't want to damage any of its tubing. Now always remember, you want to start the screw by hand. You want to make sure you start all the screws and have them set by hand, and then you will tighten the screw down. You also want to have your screw set up like this and not like this, because this way it's going to be able to cross thread the screw. This is a better way to send the screw in. For this screw in the back, you want to use a short stubby screwdriver. Once we have all the screw in the valve cover, we will make our final torque. Sometimes most people wouldn't even bother with removing the valve cover, since the vehicle is at 135,000 miles. Instead, they will just tighten down these screws and you will notice the oil leak will go away. But in our case, since we had a partially broken gasket, we was able to address it with the silicone and can make future plans for repairing it. This has concluded our valve cover replacement and leak repair procedure.